So this is kind of a rant. I get off of work and I dust the snow off my truck and I head off home and I'm listening to the radio and someone's talking about how the world in general wants to get rid of oil. They want to get off of oil. That's the whole big thing. They want to get off of oil. And I'm thinking to myself, do the people who want to kill the oil industry understand what that really entails? And I imagine an awful lot of people are thinking, well, these cars, they gas guzzling vehicles, they're going to kill the world because of oil. And I'm wondering if they're just associating cars and the gasoline with the oil and not taking into account what else the oil industry produces. Because if really think about it, if you if you get rid of the oil industry, you essentially send everyone back to the horse-drawn carriage. That just seems to make the most sense. As a result, that it would drive us in the as a whole back to the horse-drawn carriage. And is it just the hubris of idealism that where there's a will, there's a way? We just need to get rid of oil. Or are they not cognizant enough to understand what the destruction of the oil industry is? And I'm certain an awful lot of the byproducts of the oil industry can be found from plant fibers, but if we take all of our plant material and turn it into the endless litany of products that the oil industry produces, are we going to be, as a world in general, are we going to be faced with the idea we have fuel or do we have food? Do we have plastics or do we have food? And that seems to be the general concession with the idea of using plant-based materials for the things that are otherwise derived from the petroleum business. Everything on planet Earth that's produced, well, a great majority of it, is based off of the petroleum business. That's just a reality. And I'm certain there are some wonderful engineers out there that are diligently looking for replacements, but at a certain point, one has to accept the trade-off. This isn't Star Trek. There's no warp drive. There's no dime-sized nuclear reactors. There's no diamond batteries. Not yet. And at a certain point, one has to consider that not yet. So what are you going to do in the meantime? Return to the horse-drawn carriage? Just so people can fulfill their idealistic dreams of utopia? Epoxy resins, glues, paint, plastics, axle grease, engine grease, machine oils. There's an endless list of things. Carbon fiber, aramid fibers like Kevlar, the epoxy resins that are used for making these reinforcements. Not only the engine oil and the gasoline that goes into the car, but the synthetic rubbers that are found in cars. Even parts of the coolant is made from petroleum byproduct. The petrochemical companies, their products are in everything. My computer relies on the petroleum industry for its existence. the electricity going through the cables, and the production of those cables, and the mining for those materials that make those cables all come from the petrol industry. The Toyota that I drove home in, the paints, the plastics, the insulation on the wires, the manufacture of the vehicle, the transport of the vehicle, the operation of the vehicle, the mining for the materials for the vehicle. Is that the cost of idealism? What price is someone going to pay for that idealism? Prior to the automobile, most people lived and died in their local areas. The advent of the petrol industry allowed for aircraft, diesel-powered ships, locomotives. Yeah, there were steam locomotives, but when a diesel locomotive runs dry of fuel, the locomotive doesn't explode like a steam locomotive boiler will if it runs dry on water. Is that the price to pay for idealism? I mean, it's wonderful to be so idealistic, but one has to be realistic. And that there are trade-offs. And is returning to the horse-drawn carriage, returning to, well, there are no carrier pigeons, so you wouldn't have carrier pigeons to replace telephones. But is it the idealism that believes that the world that we have right now will still exist if we eliminate the very products that have created it, that sustain it? Is that the price of idealism?